Okay, what was your shiny thing, though? Because I got finishing up the last thoughts on those.
All right.
Because you wanted to make mention then of other part of the portion here. There's
so many shiny things.
I know. What about
that's the thing?
What about
but then we get to the Akedah. And believe me,
we have Isaac is born, and
we have Isaac. There's too much. It's too much. It's very distracting, All
right, so the Akedah. That's chapter 22.
But this is the part that just struck me. So,
okay.
And we're all familiar with it, but there's so many details of the Akedah.
No.
Every time you read it, you're going to find something new.
Absolutely.
It's like reading the book of Ruth. Every time you read it, there's something new.
New light.
Over and over and over again. So, after these things, God tested Abraham. So he's going to put him to the test.
Yep.
And said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. And he said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love.
Yes.
Now, right there, that's the very first time the word love is mentioned in the Bible.
It is. Yeah.
And doesn't that sound familiar? It says, he said, take your son, and he makes a specific point to say, take your only son.
Right, but it's like, wait a minute, he just called him his only son.
Yeah.
But does he not have Ishmael?
He has Ishmael.
Is not a son?
But Ishmael is not the son of promise.
Okay.
Going back to 15.
Well.
Genesis 15, the original promise. The promise is going to come through Isaac, not through Ishmael. Which takes us into Galatians chapter 3 and chapter 4.
But it makes it sound like when it says your only son, Isaac, whatever, it makes it sound like it says he has no other sons.
As far as God's concerned, Isaac is the only son because he is the son of the promise and not the son of the flesh. Paul goes into a big deal about differentiating. And when he's talking about flesh, he's not talking about, the fleshly carnal lusts and all that. He's just talking about we're physical. We're physical, flesh. But anyhow, so take your son, your only son, who you love. That should take us to John 3:16 right there.
Yeah.
Right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Right? So anyhow, to the land of Moriah to offer him there a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning. See, Abraham's not messing around now. See? He's not dilly-dallying anymore.
Bring it off.
Yeah. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled up his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God told him. On the 3rd day...
Amazingly. 3rd day.
On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. And Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will, and in the King James it says the lad, will go over there and worship and come again to you. Now notice that. Now, we in Sunday school class, coloring books, the lad.
Yes.
We think he's a child.
Yeah, right.
He's most likely in his 20s to 30s right now.
Yeah.
He is not a 12-year-old.
No.
All right, or 13 like Ishmael. He is a young man. He is a grown adult at this point in time when this is going on. And I don't think people really realize that. I think we
No, in the first reading, because it's translated usually as boy or lad, as you said there, but the word itself can be full-ranging from a young...
It just is... This word is used for anybody that, even up into adulthood, who is not yet married, is the best I understand
it's,
it.
na'ar. The Hebrew word na'ar. Young man, boy, child, ranging in age from infancy to a young adulthood.
Yeah. anybody that is not yet married,
Yeah.
from the best I'm able to ascertain. But that says, on the third day, let's see, and Abraham said, yeah, I've already read that. But it says this, we will go over there and worship. And it doesn't say, and I will come again to you. Mm-hmm. See, there's an anticipatory aspect of this. It says, it says, we will go over there and worship and come again to you.
Yeah, saying it wasn't just he was coming back.
Yeah. See,
we're going over there to worship and come again to you. So it was anticipating that he was
returning.
Yep.
Now, Abraham already knows what God told
the Lord
him
has
to
told.
do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a remarkable statement to make.
Oh, yeah.
But look. Look
at it, shiny.
We're not done with all the shiny things. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. Mm-hmm. So Isaac has the wood.
He's carrying
we
it.
know the model of that.
Yes.
Well, some people know the model of that.
Obviously.
Not everybody knows the model of that. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife, so they both went together. Mm-hmm. And Isaac said to the father Abraham, my father. And he said, here I am, son. And he said, behold the fire and the wood. But let me make an obvious observation here. Where is the lamb?
Yes.
For the burnt offering. Now I'll get to that in a second. But I find it interesting. This is pre-law.
Oh, yeah.
This is pre-Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yep. So
the law has not been given.
No.
The Exodus has not yet happened. And we've made reference to this before in regard to Cain and Abel.
Right.
That
there
how did Abraham and Isaac know what the requirement was?
Or just the elements that would go into a burnt offering.
Yes.
So that was a practice that must have already been done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It had to, and it precedes the law. This is not a practice of the law. No. I guess is my point.
No.
And they knew the requirements of it. Okay, anyhow. Abraham said, look at this. This is cool. Mm-hmm. Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb. See? For a burnt offering, my son. Mm-hmm. And notice what it says. God will provide for himself, and Abraham says, a lamb. What was provided?
It was a ram.
It was a ram, not a lamb.
Yeah.
So is Abraham an error? Huh?
No. Or is this another?
Did Abraham know that he was actually in some form or fashion working out prophecy? He knew.
I don't know. I don't know that knew just the element there, because it's asking, is this being, because that would be what would have been normally sacrificed.
Yeah. But it says, God will provide himself.
Yes.
In a lot of translations is what it says. God will provide himself a lamb. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Go with me to Leviticus.
Oh, okay.
And I already have it.
All right.
Leviticus.
We're going to Vayera. Okay.
We're going to Leviticus, chapter 17.
Chapter 17. Vayera 17. Okay, what verse?
So we'll skip verse 10 and just go right to 11.
Okay.
17, 11.
All right.
11.
11. Goes to 11.
It says this, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement
for your souls.
Yes. I have given it.
Yes.
It doesn't say, and you give it on the altar.
It says, given it to
I
you.
have given it on the altar to make atonement for you.
Yes, I have given
and
it for
you. And it just clicked here the other day. I was like, there it is.
God's provision.
It's God's provision. It's stated here, but then it's stated here. is like, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have. See, I have. This is already done. See, I have, given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. See that? For your souls. And it is the blood that makes an atonement for souls. See? Isn't that cool?
That definitely is.
Huh? And this is what I wanted to do. There's so many things within the structure of the Akedah, but this is the thing that got me.
Gotcha.
See,
that offering
this time was that. Is like,
there
it is.
Interesting thing of that is God's possessive pronouns of things, of using himself, because he's the one that's saying, I'm going to be this provision. I'm doing this for you. This blood that I'm providing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So isn't that neat?
Yes.
Now
it is curious, though. I would be curious to see further that what you just said with regard to saying the lamb, that Abraham using that term there, because it does later, and it is definitely a different word. It is definitely a ram being used
and
in
not
the word.
a lamb.
No, right. It is definitely, there is a distinction, at least within the words. My curiosity would be what is that distinction of that in the significance?
Well, the ram ends up, this is where we get the concept of the substitutionary sacrifice. The ram becomes a substitutionary sacrifice. And in this case, it's the ram that preserves Isaac. The other part that stuck out to me, knowing that Isaac was most likely a young man, and Abraham is now well into his hundreds, and we often think about Abraham is physically, possibly perhaps even having to physically restrain Isaac. You see?
Now think about what age he is now. Then he could be up to around 130 years old.
He could be up to 130 some years old. And I haven't actually went back and done the backwards math.
Yeah, but there's not anything that other than the fact we know that the promise, he was 99, circumcised. A year later, he's going to have, so he's 100.
Yeah, he's 100 when Isaac's
born. Okay.
So let's just say, for the sake of argument, he's somewhere in the 20 to 30 range.
Yeah.
All right, just for the sake of that argument, Abraham does not have the physical strength to restrain his son.
In other words, Isaac could fight off if need be.
Isaac could have well defended himself. That means that Isaac had to be a willing participant.
I would even use the word a willing sacrifice.
Yeah, he had to be, exactly, thank you. He had to be a willing sacrifice. And
he was a willing living sacrifice.
Oh, you're getting good. Hey, I like it. Yeah, that's beautiful. Because in order for Isaac to have been bound by the father, he would have had to put out his hands in order to be bound. Yeah. Which is exactly what Jesus Christ did for us. He willingly put out his hands. Yeah. Isaac was complicit in this event. He was not just imagine the obedience of the Son to the Father. Say, the obedience of the Son to the Father, going, I'm not a big fan of this idea, but thy will be done. Yeah. And he complies, and he holds out his hands, and is bound, in order for this to happen. And
that level of representation of who this person is, the combination of Abraham and Isaac in this, has such significance with regard to the example we're to have for obedience unto the Lord. And how, when you just read the story, it's like, what? How is God asking you to kill your son? Wait a minute. Isn't it later stated very clearly you don't, human sacrifice is like, no, it's totally wrong. And the whole plan going into it, though, even Abraham's plan of trusting the Lord was the fact Hebrews later makes reference. It says, hey, if this goes through in the whole 9 yards, he's going to just raise him from the dead.
Exactly. Thank you. Because I was just about to talk about that. Abraham had full expectation of the resurrection.
Yeah.
What is one of the 6 fundamentals?
Fundamental, yes.
Of the doctrine of Christianity.
Resurrection.
It is the doctrine of the resurrection, the faith in the resurrection, the knowledge of the resurrection, and there's the 6, and that's one of them.
One of them.
He had faith in the resurrection because he knew Isaac had not had offspring yet. Here's the last little tidbit for you.
Okay.
Because we're going to actually get to this, but Isaac is edited out of the text from this point forward, up until a certain point. You know, he's edited out of the text. Of course, Isaac returned with Abraham back down the hill to the donkeys and went back to the camp and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But he's edited out of the text. The next time Isaac is mentioned is when he gets to behold his bride.
Yes.
That is the next time.
Yes, we have the marriage.
Yeah. And until then, Isaac becomes non-existent on the pages of Scripture until he is united with his bride.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is. Imagery that is put forward there. That's cool.
There's much more. There's many more shiny things.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyhow.
But yes, our time, that was worth delving into. For certain.
All right.
Well, cool. All righty. Well, next time we'll be plowing into our next portion.
Which is also, incidentally, pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
So remind us, we're still on, what's the portion, the next portion?
Chayei Sarah. So we're basically dealing with Sarah. Life of Sarah here. Chayei Sarah. So.
All right. Very good. We'll see you then.
Good.